Now, if you grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons in the late 1990s without cable, chances are your first introduction to Greek mythology wasn't a textbook or any Disney show. This show was dark, surprisingly intense, and action-packed, and it was produced by Canadian animation powerhouse called Nelvana. Yes, we are talking about the complete story of Mythic Warriors, Guardians of the Legend. Now, I thought this would be a great time to talk about this wonderful show due to the fact that Odyssey is doing absolutely amazing in the box office and everyone wants to learn more about Greek mythology. So I thought this is a good time to come back to this show and see what it's all about. But before we dive on into it, guys, make sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe if you have not, and check out the playlist for all the other blasts from the past episodes. And join the Discord to stay in touch with everything on my channels. With that all out of the way, let's get on into it. Now, before it hit the television screens, Mythic Warriors began on the printed page. In 1996, author Laura Gringer and illustrator Peter Bellinger published a popular Children's Choice Award-winning book, which was called Myth Men, Guardians of the Legend, and it was under the Scholastic books. Now, these books reimagined the classical Greek myths as high-octane comic-style adventures, and these stories were aimed at kids ages 4 to 8. And once the popularity of action series like X-Men and live-action shows like Hercules, Nelvana partnered with French studio Marathon Productions and Hongguang Animation and Scholastic Inc. to turn these books into a 26-episode animated television series. Now, it ran from November 7th, 1998 to January 22nd, 2000, and this series ran for 2 seasons. It was broadcast on CBS in the US, Teletoon and YTV in Canada, and Scottish Television in the UK. Now, bringing ancient Greek mythology to American broadcast networks meant navigating this through the strict FCC guidelines for educational programming. CBS hired educational consultants to ensure each episode delivered a moral lesson on teamwork, humility, courage, and responsibility. All that while staying action-packed with lots of monster-slaying action. Now, one reason Mythic Warriors resonated so strongly with fans was its top-tier voice casting and its character choices. You had a narrator that provided their authoritative theatrical openings and closing monologues that gave every episode a sense of ancient gravity. And you saw so many heroes throughout this great series, like Hercules, Odysseus, Andromadia, Atlanta, and the Olympians. Hades, Hera, Hades, there are so many characters in this one show. Now, ancient Greek myths are filled with tragedy, revenge, and explicit themes, and Nelvana had to sanitize these stories, especially for 90s Saturday morning TV, without stripping away for their dramatic weight. They used certain different ways to pull this off. So in some ways, they had to change sometimes the story. So for example, some damsels in distress were transformed into active fighters, riders, and heroines rather than passive victims, or refraining from tragic villains. Icarus's fall wasn't just hubris, but a lesson on listening to experience over youthful impulse. In King Midas's story, his desire for gold was born out of grief after losing his charitable queen to illness, giving this tragic greed in human some core and a purpose. And some monsters weren't really easily defeated. They required tactical problem solving, like Odysseus beating Circe, or Perseus and Andromeda defeating Cetus, each requiring some strategy and traps rather than brute force. It's impossible to talk about Mythic Warriors without mentioning the massive shadow cast by Disney in 1998. Now, Disney launched Hercules the animated series the very same year. While Disney opted for a very pulp culture, heavy high school comedy format, where Hercules went to Prometheus Academy, Nelvana took the exact opposite path. While making Mythic Warriors, they refused to treat Greek mythology as a joke. There were no modern pulp culture puns or snappy song and dance numbers. It treated ancient Greek mythology as an atmospheric, dangerous world where decisions had consequences and setting it apart more of a mature alternative Saturday morning cartoon. Now, before the show actually began, it was actually called Mythmen, Guardians of the Legend, to mirror the book. However, the network executive feared it sounded too similar to a generic superhero team like the X-Men, so it changed it to Mythic Warriors to reflect the broader cast of male and female heroes. Now, because CBS needed the show to qualify as an educational informative program, Nelvana had to submit written moral breakdowns of every episode. This is why episodes frequently ended with a voiceover summary trying the hero's struggle back to real-world lessons like peer pressure or leadership. Now, Nelvana wanted to make this show as best as they could. They also took heavy visual cues from classical Greek pottery, 19th century neoclassical paintings, and 1990 comic book designs. The gods in this show were always rendered towering above mortals, drawn in strict geometric scales to emphasize their overworldly nature. Mount Olympus was depicted as a realm above the clouds made of glowing white marble and cosmic skies. And rather than the standard cartoon monsters, many monsters in this show featured heavy shadows, detailed line work, and threatening silhouettes designed to give children a real sense of danger. And the composer of this show avoided modern pop or rock synths common in the late 90s cartoons. Now, this show had a lot going for it, and Nelvana tried their best to push it as best as they can and stay as true as they could to the Greek mythology while inspiring and teaching kids of a newer generation about this mythology. But Mythic Warriors ended very, very shortly. The cancellation wasn't due to poor ratings, but rather a seismic shift in network broadcasting. CBS abolished its whole Nelvana production on the Saturday morning block in the early 2000s to pivot more towards Nick Jr. and Nickelodeon programming. Sadly, they just wanted to change for a newer audience. But despite its short run, Mythic Warriors left a lasting legacy. For thousands of 90s kids, this show served as a direct gateway into this classic literature, history, and mythology. And the series continued after, worldwide, even being translated into Scottish Gaelic for broadcast on BBC Alba in the 2010s. And today, the animation fans celebrate the show, along other 90s classics, for helping treat young audiences with intelligence, high stakes, and serious drama. But I suggest if you liked the movie Odyssey to check this show out. If you want to learn more about Greek mythology, I think this is a cool little fun way to learn more about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you ever watched Mythic Warriors? And if you have, what did you think about it? Or after watching this video, are you going to check it out? Make sure to check out all the other forgotten shows in the playlist down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.